Tragically, there was nowhere to run. The water reached incredible speeds, picking up anything in its path.
The waves will break up buildings, they'll break up cars, they'll carry these things inland. And of course, people will be carried for kilometres along with all this debris and bashing against it and being prevented from actually getting up out of the water by a virtual layer of debris at the top.
Evidence of the tsunami's colossal power litters the coastline.
This is what's left of the Bandarache cement works and the wharf area. The ship being totally trashed there. Here we've got these huge big sections of breakwater, and they've just been sheared off and thrown over here like rag dolls. And these pieces here must weigh hundreds of tons, and it just defies belief really, which kind of gives you some idea of just how awesome this thing was.
The damage sustained by this cement factory is another clear indication of how high the wave was when it hit.
Just this area we've been walking around here today is like the aftermath of an atomic bomb, is maybe worse.
But in Sumatra, the real cost is a human one. Under all this wreckage lie thousands of bodies. 3/4 of the tsunami's victims died here in Sumatra. But the Great Wave is far from finished. Just 15 minutes later, the Andaman and Nicobar Islands are also hit. Over 7,000 die or go missing.
For those who have been rescued, a refugee centre has been set up in Port Blair, the tiny capital of these islands. 1,500 were there when we visited, with more arriving all the time. Relatives search desperately for the name of a loved one on the admissions board.
45 minutes after the earthquake, scientists at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Centre are still unaware of the tsunami. But they're desperately trying to analyze the earthquake data.
This is an evolving story. More and more data is coming in at more and more stations at increasing distances from the earthquake. And now we were dealing with a much larger event. 8.5 is much larger than 8.
Oh boy, that's a real...
Stu suggested, you know, that we should really issue a second message on this with some kind of upgrade. Why don't you call Chip? And I said, good idea. We called Chip, and I basically told him the situation, the idea. Now we're getting a magnitude 8.5, it looks like.
We discussed it and agreed we needed to issue a second bulletin to let people know that this was bigger than we initially estimated, and there was the possibility of the tsunami being generated in the region of the epicenter.
Stu and I crafted a second message. We ad-libbed it, we put our own words in, and we surrounded it with white space to make sure it was obvious in the message, and sent it out. We also knew at that point that because of the proximity of the earthquake to Sumatra, that by now they were already inundated.
Thailand, 1 hour after the earthquake. Cities are waking up, and beaches beginning to stir. People remain oblivious to the thousands of deaths in Sumatra and the approaching tsunami.
Just moving so quick that I bolted.
I was on the roof. I was not going to let the water take me away.
It was just something out of a science fiction book.
One of the extraordinary things about tsunami is that the destructive power, their height, how far they go inland, etc., is hugely determined by the morphology of the coastline. And that is fantastically well demonstrated on the west coast of Phuket Island.
Professor Bill Maguire of University College London is an expert in the behaviour of tsunamis.
If you look at Bang Tao Beach here, the waves came in like this. This area was almost completely destroyed, whereas In the northern part of the bay here, which is relatively protected, there was less damage.
When tsunamis impact, they can seem like chaotic walls of water, but the damage they cause is anything but random.
We go further down the coast, we see the same sort of thing again. Kamala here, almost completely obliterated. The headland here as well might have caused some refraction of the waves, because they do interact in quite a complex manner. You may get an area which is virtually unaffected, whereas a few kilometres down the coast you may get complete devastation.